り？
おや、ナビア城じゃないか。
なんだ、ずいぶんと耳が早いじゃん。
俺も一応警察隊の一員だからな。それにしても、なんだ
そいつはどうだろうね。
別に戻ろうと思えばいつだって戻れるのさ。けどなんつうか、カーレスさんはポアソン町を実によく管理してたんだぜ。スピナディロースらをそつなく運営してた上に、俺が処理するはずだった面倒事もいろいろと減らしてくれた。それなのにここで帰ったら、こんな楽に給料がもらえる職務を放棄することになるんだぞ。まあ雑談はここまでにして。そっちの二人はお前の友達かい？
うん、こいつらは私の相棒でね。歌劇場の事件のことがあってから、あれがパパの件と関係してるんじゃないかって思うようにな。
おお、そうだったのか。もし当時の資料が欲しけりゃ何とかしてやろう。
あんがと。あ、そうだ。
そりゃもちろんさ。ポア村長はでっかいからな。なんでまたそんなこと聞くんだ？
いや、実はさ、つい最近街でね、考えてみたの。あんたが私に手を出したんだ。
俺を誰だと思ってるんだ？そんな大層なことできやしないさ。そうだな。例えるなら、シェフに料理を注文したら料理を作ってくれるだろ。そんなデタラメな要求をしたところ、だいたいお前が言った番号を消すのだって、実際に、つまり、お前らの言ってる警備ロボは、個人、しかしあれはかなり高いからな。個人で所有するとなると。
なるほどね。じゃあ、私がここに宣言してあげる。あんたの容疑は
おっと。これはナビア城に感謝しないとな。さて、冗談もここら辺にして、俺はまだしばらく町にいる。もし警察隊の支援が必要になったら、
属性をミオラさん。
こんにちは。本日、マーセル会長と話したいから取り継いでくれる？かしこまりました。
どうもどうも、すまんな、待たせてしまって。年を取ったせいか、足があまり言うことを聞かなくて。
大丈夫、そう慌てなくてもいいって。歌劇場での出来事について、あんたと少し話したいの。あんた、全部見てたでしょ？
ええ、まったく。あれほど常軌を。
あの時、お前も歌劇場にいたのか？
ああ。私はナビアと共にあのマジックショーを見に行っててな。まさかあんなことが起こるとは君たちの素晴らしい推理も見させて、あの場所で水神様を論破するとは。
おい、なんか
すまん。フォンテーヌとはこの。
マーセルおじさん、あんたも気づいたよね？
ああ、私はその場ですぐカーレスさんのことを思い出したよ。
ええ。
というと？
私に原始大会の水を飲ませようとした連中がいたんだよ。それに、もし相棒がいてくれなかったら、今頃そうかしこまるなって。それにお前だって。
ことが、だが安心してくれナビア。少なくともポア村長はまだ安全だ。あそこにまで手を出そうとする。
あんがと、マーセルおじさん。ねえ、昔のあの事件。
それについては、確か当時パーティーを主催したのはそうこうしていると例の。
もう大丈夫、無理しないで。他にも手がかりがないか、よそでも聞いてみ。
ああ、もしモラが、私の財産は全てカーレスさんの恩恵に。
風よ、ついてこいなんて言ってないよ。天へと前。
これで可能性のある容疑者3人と
みんないたって普通だったな。
これも想定内ってとこかな。だってたった一度の会話で尻尾をつかめるほど甘い連中だったらパパが何年もかけて調査することもなかったでしょ。とにかく情報は少ないけど一旦整理してみよっか。
どこから始めればいいんだ？そうそう、さっき
ジャックの家族の話によると、彼は家を出るときもう正体がバレてるから他に選択肢はないって言ってたらしいね。私が思うに、パパを殺さないと自分と家族が全員死ぬことになるって上の連中に脅されてたんじゃない？
じゃあ最初に銃を撃ったのはジャックってことか？
へえ、どうして？
そっか、自分が人殺しの道具として利用されてるのはジャックだって気づいてたはずだ。もし
つまりジャックのその時取った行動として最も可能性があるのは、殺人を犯すことなくパパに助けを求めること。そうなるね。でもあとジャックの原始大会の水の
まさかオイラ
今の状況から見るに黒となると、問題はマルシラックが絞った3人の容疑者のうち誰が警備ロボをコントロールできるかってなるね。マーセルおじさん？それにカブリエールでもちょっと想像できないかな。マーセルおじさんは私が子供の頃からずっとそばにいてくれた人だし、しかももし彼が黒幕だったらずっとモラと労力をかけてロシの商売を自分で妨害してきたってことになるでしょ。フローレント？確かに彼はギャングの参謀として人事と治安に関する事務を担当。そういうこと。あれだけの警備ロボを一気に送り出すなんて難しいと思うよ。ティエリ？なるほど。でも警備ロボの話は本当っぽく。
確かにそうだな。それにどっかの警備ロボがなくなったら、
まったく誰が黒幕なの？確かにそう考えると一番
容疑者を絞りすぎたって可能性はないか？
マルシラックはかなりスピナディロースらの動きを心の中でどんだけ否定しても、この推理は疑いようがない。
推理とか推測ばっかしてても話は進まないと思うぞ。
そうね。準備もなしにあそこを探るのはリスクがかなり高い。私たちが持ってる情報では犯人を告発するのに不十分だからね。
ナビア城、ここにいたのか。ずっと探してたんだぞ。
あれ？警察隊のやつじゃんか。どうしたん？
それがお前らが去ってすぐエリニュス島から知らせが届いてな。
そんな騒ぐようなこと？
いや、肝心なのは審判を受ける人の方でな。タルタリアっていう。
どうしたの？まさか知り合い？
知り合いどころかむしろ腐れ縁ってとこだな。
今度はそいつが連続少女失踪事件の犯人として告発されたみたいだ。お前
なんでそんなことに？その人って私たちの調査とは全く関係なかったでしょ？
だよな。俺もおかしいと思ったから もし彼に対する告発が有罪になったら、過去の事件を調べようにも、もう警察隊が応じてくれなくなるかもしれない。
うん。犯人が見つかったことになるからね。
そうなりゃ、カーレスさんの
わかった。相棒。
そうだな。
手分けってさ、連続少女失踪事件に関係する審判だし、まさに絶好のでも今の手がかりだけじゃ、勝つなんて夢のまた夢。だから、
お前が審判で、オイラたちを助けてくれた時と一緒だ。
お嬢様、私たちも同行させていただけないでしょうか。
こちらの
マルシラック、シルバー、あんたたち。
お嬢様がポアソン町から離れるのを見て、助けが必要だと思う。私たち二人がお嬢様のそばにいれば、多少。
あんがとね。じゃあ、
約束だ。ナビアも行ったし、オイラたちも
いや、
目的According to Melusa's info, the synth production base is underwater. Let's go and try to find the entrance. So this is the entrance that leads to the synth production base. Ah, you're right. Navia's probably arguing up a storm.
It would appear that I must repeat my question again, Mr. Tartaglia. Do you accept the charge that you are the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case?
To be perfectly honest, I don't understand your country's complicated court system, or the reason why I'm being charged. However, I did hear that people who have been charged can choose to participate in a duel to clear their name. Is that... In which case, as long as I accept the charge, I can have an all-out fight with that champion duelist Clorend, right? I've got to admit, that's one of the most enticing offers I've ever received. When I privately sparred with her last time, she was obviously holding back. Real disappointing.
Hey! Don't you understand? You're currently the prime suspect for a major case. This isn't the place for you to be looking for fights.
Oh? Sounds like the Hydro Archon one. Then why don't you duel me too? I'm the kind of student that learns best in the heat.
No.
Alas, it would appear that communication with the defendant is going poorly, and we have made very little progress. In that case, let me explain everything from the very beginning again. The goal of this trial is to determine the...
That case had nothing to do with him. You've got the wrong man.
Huh? What's going on? Why is she interjecting again?
I told you it couldn't be one of the Fatui Harbingers.
Miss Navia, this is the second time you've interrupted the court proceedings. I only tolerated your behavior last time because you were able to provide the court with a key eyewitness. But that was an exception rather than standard court protocol. I can very well charge you with contempt of court for your interjections.
Oh, please. Did you ever... We can put that discussion aside for now.
I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to charge the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case. And if my charges prove true, then Tartaglia here will be proven innocent by default, correct?
Oh, a young lady has charged in and offered to clear my name. How fascinating. Well, I'd gotten half bored to death by all these rules and procedures anyway, so I'll take you up on that offer. So, Your Honor, is there nothing else for me to do now?
You may take a seat for now in the audience, but that doesn't mean the suspicions against you have been lifted. Now then, Miss Navia, who is the person you would like to charge instead?
That person is... Marcel, the head of Confrérie of Cabrières!
Huh? What confrérie? Never heard of them in my life.
I've heard of them, but weren't they Spina di Rosula's sister organization?
Oh, is this going to be a friends to enemies type situation?
Please let me remind you, Miss Navia, that charging someone is an incredibly serious matter. Committing to the charge also means taking on the legal responsibilities associated with it. And if the charge fails, depending on the circumstances, you may also be charged with the crime of making a false accusation. Knowing this, do you still wish to charge this man?
Yes, I do.
In that case, I declare the charge to be valid. Miss Navia and attorneys, please take your places on the court. Members of the guards, please contact Mr. Marcel right away so that he may stand trial. Mr. Marcel, you will not require an attorney. Is that correct?
Apologies. It all just happened so quickly. I still haven't figured out what's going on. I think an attorney won't be necessary. This is probably just a misunderstanding between me and Navia.
Very well. In that case, since both sides have now arrived, Miss Navia, please present your charges.
I would like to take everyone back to 3 years ago, to the case of Callus the Unfaithful. Only through elucidating...
Navia, do you really think that I was the one who killed your father? Come on, why would I do that? If that's enough to make me a suspect...
I think there's no point in Exactly correct, Your Honor. I must refresh...
I see. In which case, I will recount the findings about that case as originally recorded by Maison Gardiennage. On the day of the murder, Spina di Rosula hosted a large banquet in a countryside estate owned by the Confrérie of Cabrières. During the banquet, all attending guests heard When the guests arrived at the scene, they found the primary suspect, Callus, holding a gun, while his acquaintance The guards' investigation did not recover any other firearms from the scene. As a result, they concluded that the suspect did not dispute this conclusion, and also Callus was defeated by champion duelist Clarande in the ensuing duel. These are the known facts about the case.
The one with the motive to kill was Jacques, not my father. In truth, the third person shot Jacques first. After that, the true culprit turned the third person into what... Thank you for the summary, Your Honor. Of course, the guard's conclusion appeared quite sensible to us at the time. However, we should revisit the case now that we've gained new information about the... testimony of the victim's family. However, in the end, he unfortunately for Jacques. This assassin first shot Jacques, then turned to shoot Callus. A pile of clothing was found, but now since it was realizing this, the true culprit caused the...
So that's what happened. Wait, you're telling me something is dangerous?
What a great theory.
Mr. Marcel, you are the one being charged.
But I think I agree with everything now.
Then, may I ask some questions? In my opinion, we primarily need to determine two things. One, do you have the evidence to back up your claims?
I'm afraid not. At least...
Boo! If you don't have any evidence...
I may not have the evidence with me, but we should be able, considering the serial disappearances case.
That makes sense to me. Monsieur Neuvillette, I would consider this to be a reasonable...
Why do I feel like Farina's acting a little differently today?
Maybe she's scared of embarrassing herself again.
Alternatively, she's become more diligent.
My second question has to do with the ensuing duel. If the truth is indeed as you describe, then why didn't Mr. Callus explain himself in court? If he had testified that a person...
I've thought about this too, and the answer is actually pretty simple. He felt there were things that were... The dissolving power of water from the... My father could have exposed it for all to see, but he chose to take it to the grave. At that time, Spina di Rosula... What was certain, however, was that it would paint a gigantic...
Boss once told me that Demoiselle had already been selected as the next target.
What?
If the secret had gotten out, of course, the guards might eventually figure out the truth of the matter and determine... But what good would that do? How can had this opera house ever given my father any kind of confidence? But by staying silent, we retained the ability to deter our opponents. I was able to become Spina di Rosula's, and once I have figured out the truth and stepped up to the challenge, I will do what this opera house cannot, and restore my father's truth and honor back to him.
So, you mean to say... Your father intended to die in the duelist's ring?
That's right.
Do you have any proof?
Of course. All you need is to ask his opponent, Clarande. I don't need your apology, your guilt, or your support from the shadows. You don't have to do any... But since he entrusted his will to you, Clarande...
Yes, I did. As a champion duelist, I've fought many battles and taken a countless number of dishonored lives. In my line of work, I've seen all kinds of people give their all for the faintest hope to continue living. Some were determined, others passionate, and some even just one look and I can tell if a duelist is hope. I hereby swear on my name and honor as a champion duelist that Mr. Callus never intended to leave the ring alive.
Since that's your testimony, I have no more questions.
I concur. However, Miss Navia, you still have not explained the link.
Right? What she said was fascinating, but kind of...
Wait, weren't they just talking about the serial disappearances case?
Of course, Your Honor. The two cases are connected via a matter of timing. In my father's case, the culprit intended to kill both Jacques and at the end of Linny's trial, the culprit also only dissolved the victim in front of everyone because they realized they were at risk of being identified. The culprit could only time their actions so precisely if they were already at the scene. Coincidentally, Marcel attended both the banquet and the trial.
So that's why you suspected me. Even after hearing your reasoning, I still can't help but find it a little preposterous. I'm used to it, though. You've always been an impulsive and sentimental child, Navia. It's one of your most endearing traits.
No need to appeal to pathos.
I won't try to refute your points one by one, but even if everything you just said was true, can you prove that I was the only person present at both events? On top of that, does a person have to be physically present to control the timing? Can't someone remotely monitor the place?
Don't know what she can say to that.
I know that even with that, you might still think you... Alas, who won't feel at least a little hurt by an accusation of murder from a girl you see as your own daughter? But if I were to dismiss this completely, you'd also think I'm not being considerate of your feelings. Ah well, let Uncle Marcel teach you another lesson. Do you know what the biggest flaw in your reasoning is?
I suppose you're gonna tell me anyways.
It's timing again. I'm a businessman by trade. From that standpoint, there's no reason for me to kidnap young women. It's a high-risk action with nothing to gain. In addition, I left my home in Snezhnaya when I was young to come to Poisson and work in some trade. My business only thrived when I received Callus's patronage. But the disappearances began before I ever stepped foot in Fontaine.
I do apologize, demoiselle. This was my mistake.
No, it's not your fault. I'm sure he had come prepared.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Would you like to check the date of my first business life? You can also take a look at my border entry records, or ask my friends and family when I left Snezhnaya for the first time. Could those records and testimonies do something to appease the unspeakable?
Seems like she got the wrong guy.
At this rate, Navia will be convicted for falsely accusing.
I think you've done a superb job of dissecting your father's feelings as he neared the end of his life. But aren't you going against all of his wishes and expectations right now? He wished for you to become more rational, collected, and conscientious, instead of dwelling only on your own feelings. Once you've learned to be more considerate of others' feelings, and to